How's it going, everyone? Darby here with GenAI University, and in this video, I'm going to be breaking down how to create a custom GPT inside of the ChatGPT interface that can follow a series of instructions and commands that you give it to create faster, desired outputs and results from that GPT. Now, if you've have access to a lot of our different recipes and workflows, prompts, commands, and things of that nature inside of our community, then you'll notice with the demonstration I'm going to be sharing with you today that you can do and replicate what I'm doing here with any number of our existing prompts and recipes. Also, how you can utilize this to make your own. And the example I'm going to be demonstrating here today is going to be taking our buyer's blueprint, which is by far top three, if not number one, most utilized workflow that we've created here. And initially, this workflow came from collaboration with John Benson and his Copy Pro marketing blueprint. We utilized Jasper at the time, around October, November 2022, right before ChatGPT hit the scene. And we were using Jasper to generate this entire blueprint. And it would still take some time because we would execute each one of the commands by themselves, but then those stacked on top of each other and ultimately ended up creating a full, robust buyer's blueprint very quickly with a recipe. Now I'm going to show you how I'm going to be building that recipe that we spent countless hours crafting and developing the individual prompts and the workflow specifically for the buyer's blueprint, and how we're going to use it to create a custom GPT. So as you can see here, I am in my ChatGPT 4 interface. I'm going to move my face over to the side. And if you have a ChatGPT 4 account, you will most likely have access to the My GPTs. If not, you likely will soon. I'm going to click My GPTs. And what this is going to do is open up my section for GPTs, which will give me the ability to search other GPTs I've created and create my own. So what I'm going to do first is click Create GPT, and that's going to open up this simple interface. Now, this is the GPT builder where I could interact using natural language to give it instructions as to what I would like. And what it will do is start configuring via icon, name, description, instructions. It'll come up with some conversation starters. And then I've got the ability to upload additional content such as into my knowledge base, like files, like specific information or data that I have within my own company or that I found from like an article or a PDF that I want to have my GPT reference specifically. And so you can build your own knowledge base right here, as well as selecting whether you want web browsing, DALL-E images, code generator. And then we can take things a step further with actions, which I won't be getting into these today, but this is where we could start to really build on top of a baseline GPT, which I'm going to be demonstrating the build of today. And so to start with this, I want to quickly note that, like I mentioned earlier, any number of our workflows and recipes and really prompts that you see out there in the world can be turned into instructions for a GPT that you can build yourself. Benefit to having a GPT that you're just doing and you have to put in a basic input, get the output, is you're not going to need to copy and paste a bunch of these prompts every single time you do a brand new ChatGPT thread or Claude or another tool that you might be using for these prompts. It's all hosted right here. Which could also be a con too, in case, ChatGPT and OpenAI just blows up one day. Not like that isn't something that could happen. Obviously, we've seen some things shake up recently in the industry, a lot of change and happening very fast right now. So keep that in mind, and that anything you're creating in terms of the natural language, enhanced prompts, command stacks that you put together, make sure you're saving those somewhere else. And I prefer to save all of mine right now into a platform called Notion, which is what I'm showing you right here, is a Notion board that we're in development for, just where we're hosting a lot of our different more advanced trainings and resources. But what I've done with Notion is created a database that I'm hosting the development of this workflow. And I'm showing you this because it might give you ideas for how you could store some of your own content that you're creating as well as many of you that are part of our community and have purchased our NFT library card over the past year have access to our bronze edition library card, which has many of these workflows and recipes already built for you. And so where I want to start with this, because I've already gone through this process a couple times to make sure that it would actually function the way that I want it to, and demonstrating this to you, is two things. One, you see this first half of the prompt right here, and then you see a product segment context, right? This is what we're going to want to give the AI. Then we have a start here and this beast. So buyer's brief to begin, primary complaints, secondary complaints, topics, goals, descriptors, solutions, all the things that come with the buyer's blueprint. So what this is, type this, it's going to say blueprint, and this is going to say blueprint. And what all this is something that I had already spent the time creating. So what I'm going to do here is copy this buyer's blueprints up to the market segment. I'm copying this first because this is what I created when I initially started building out this GPT. And this is actually what ChatGPT ended up giving me. And so I'm going to show you how I'm taking what we've already created on a pre-built workflow first, and I'm going to upload that and show you how the GPT builder is interacting with it, and then where I put specific parameters in place. So I'm going to copy this into my GPT builder. I'm simply going to select enter. And what I want it to do is essentially kickstart the process of building out the GPT with the entire start to finish of this is what we're looking to create here. And then I want to essentially fine tune the configuration of it to make sure that the instructions are going to be getting the information they need first. And then once I give them that information, it will have the right prompt and command to kickstart the next chain of actions I want it to do and complete. And so it's taking some time, and this, is going to take, it's not just instantaneous snap your fingers, but it's going to put you on the path of, interacting back and forth. As we could see, great, I've set up a GPT to act as a world-class marketer and researcher. It specializes in marketing psychology, human behavior for buying decisions, details, analysis, yada, yada. For the name, how about Marketing Maven? Does that work for you? So I'm going to say, no, use the name Buyer's Blueprints. Let's say 4.1. So I'm just telling it, this is what I want you to name it. It's going to take that name. It's going to update the GPT. And then generally what happens is it says, cool, what do you want the logo to be? And then we're just going to kind of walk it down that path with, again, most important part of starting this thread off is the fact that we've already given it this buyer's blueprint. Now, of course, you could come into here a completely blank slate and just say, this is what I want, go out and do it. And of course, the AI is going to be helpful in getting you there. I don't like this logo at all. No, do a more simple, minimalistic neon logo with a, let's say microscope. Hopefully it knows what I'm trying to say there. So, and I've done the time in putting the workflow together, right? So if you're wanting to go and create your own buyer's blueprint, all you need to access is this source code, which if you're part of our community, then you'll have access to it through our resources. And you can take this and you can modify it however you see best fit. But say that, cool, I like this one a lot more. I like it. So let it know. It's going to update the image over here. And then it'll go on to the conversational style and the tone and how we need to be interacting with it from there. So as we see it updating the GPT, when thinking about the detailed analysis, which type of products or service should we focus on? So this is where I'm going to say, like, it should focus on the user inputs. And this is important because if we're not clearly directing the GPT to be making sure that we're giving it the right inputs as a user, it could go and whatever it was maybe kind of leaning towards here? Is there a type of product or service we could focus on? If I wanted to specialize this GPT in only e-commerce products and only products for my brand, for example, I could do that, and I could customize it here and say, yes, we're going to be focusing on brands that are maybe women's, health supplemental products, and here's our product catalog, and here's, different things that we're doing with it. And so, just to highlight that, because you can go any number of directions with how this can play out, which is why the source code for this buyer's blueprint is really, really useful for you guys to start from. But know that you can basically modify this to do and work for you in a number of different ways. So it'll adapt the specific type of products to your input. Would you like to try in the playground right now? Refineries, yada, yada. So we see this here. I want to go over to configure and see we've got our name, buyer's blueprint 4.1, expert marketer and customer researcher, focusing on deep audience analysis and actual insights. So role and goal, act as a, and so this is what we have right here, and what it's building out for us is these instructions based on what I gave it. So it's giving you this right here: human behavior, analyze the market segments, includes demographics. And so you see all the things that are part of what I gave it initially. Constraints: avoid generalizing or vague, focus on specific actionable insights, no fluff. Guidelines: follow the structured approach, starting with this buyer blueprint. Okay, that's good. Use formats provided in the instructions, clarification. So it's giving itself these rules to build off of. Use visual emotional language to drill down to the core offer, provide no nonsense actual marketing advice. And so that's good. And so from here, there's two more things I want to do, or really one. I want to go back over here into my Notion doc. And this was what, the first time I made this GPT, this is what it came out with. And this is what I saved to make sure that I had access to it if I needed it. This start right here was really helpful, and I wrote this up. So it was basically saying, start the user, get clear on the product or service. Once the user starts, access to the internet, along with a focused research or the buyer's blueprint. So I'm going to take this start, and I'm going to copy now all the rest of this, because I really want it to focus in on this top to bottom workflow. So once I've got this information, I'm simply going to paste it down here. I'm going to go ahead and save. Now that I've got all this context here, remember, again, I could still add additional knowledge. I could do a number of things. And what it just did when I saved it was open up a separate thread for me to just start interacting with it. And so I'm going to say my product is Side Hustle, the party game for entrepreneurs. Let's see, PRODUCT, and click enter. And so now how this GPT should operate in my mind is it should analyze the product, it should identify the segments, the niche, and additional context that maybe I can bring to the table. But also now it's going to start executing the buyer's blueprint, because I gave it that start here, go through this whole process, and it's going through, again, top to bottom, the buyer's blueprint that we've already created, essentially the entire series of prompts that go into this workflow. Now we're setting this GPT up to operate in such a way that we don't need to copy and paste every single time. We simply need to open up the buyer's blueprint 4.1, enter a little bit of information about our product and our service and our market segment. And now GPT is going to work for us, coming up with all the different elements of said buyer's blueprint. Now, I could see this being utilized in a number of ways beyond just how I've demonstrated here with you, based on your business, your brand, your clients, your products and services. How much research and how much information do you already have on hand that you'd want it to be catering these types of reports to? Do you have research on your own audience? Do you have like surveys or different forms of data that surrounding your own products that you could feed your own GPT version of this to be much more geared and on point to what you're creating and putting out in the world. As you can see, we're going all the way down to the bottom in one shot on this through the expensive alternatives, the profit offer benefits, things of that nature. And so pretty much in one shot without needing to copy and paste like you would see us do previously in Claude and ChatGPT, the entire buyer's brief recipe. Now it's a simple chat interface that you can interact with. You can ask questions, you can prompt to do certain things, and then ask it to continue based on that front. But now, once we get to the end of the buyer's blueprint road, I'm saying, great. Now, what are we going to actually do with this information? Well, here lies the next series of prompts or instructions that you want to continue down the path with. And maybe it's saying you want to create certain types of content for this. You want to create ads around the buyer's blueprint that you've created. You want to write emails, all of this number of things. Well, now you could simply copy and paste this prompts into here, or you could create your own variation of this GPT that has those sorts of frameworks and templates and prompts in place after the blueprint to go ahead and create whatever sort of content that you'd want to be creating off of that. And so, as we can see here, we have very quickly gone through, given it a product or service, and then it's come up with the buyer's blueprint. And all of that in mind, if you go back to your GPT, as we see here, see I've got my GPT up front. I can select edit, and now I can say, so I'm going to say the digital online version play for free. I can interact with it here in a very similar sense. It's just giving me the ability to configure and work with my GPT builder as well at the same time. And, again, the more advanced we get with this sort of stuff and get into the actions of things, and the more cool things you're going to see GPTs capable of doing. This is just an example of how to get in, go from kind of start to finish for what a GPT looks like. You can save and copy the link to share it with anyone that can access the link. You would need a ChatGPT Pro account, which again, it's got its pros and cons with building these in here. But you've also got the source code for something like this, which I can now take, have the guidelines, clarification, personalization, and I can save this back in my Notion board right here, so that if at any point my GPT gets wiped off the earth, assuming I still have my Notion account, I can just copy and paste all of this stuff right here, role, goal, that's the sort of thing. And there you go. It's just continuing to go down the desires, the behaviors, the pain points. And yeah, that's how you turn it, a prompt or a workflow into a GPT, how you can utilize the GPT interface to interact with, the instructions you're giving it to come up with a refined approach. And then again, taking an active role and, making sure that it's starting in the right place, that it's executing all of the contents that we're giving it. And it's coming up on 8 o'clock Central Time here, which means the whole world is waking up and writing emails with ChatGPT, which may be why it's a little bit slower right now. Maybe it's just my computer, but yeah, it's a matter of testing, tweaking, and iterating, refining, and then sending out putting these into action, testing out the results, and then getting feedback from the results from, again, members of the community and myself as I'm using it to modify and enhance the GPT for the buyer's blueprint. And that's it in a nutshell. So again, throughout this video, we've covered how to, take an existing workflow prompt recipe, create it with GPT Builder, configure it, add your own knowledge as it makes sense to here. And then in a future video, we're going to explore APIs that the GPT can use and how to add those into actions to do even more awesome things for us. But all that said, uh, hope this is helpful in you getting out and creating your own GPT or seeing where these come into play. And of course, there's a number of different ways that we're going to continue to be able to expand on this, as it is still new technology that we are able to utilize. So hope you find it useful, and keep calm and AI on. Keep exploring out there. I'll see you on the other side.